Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel Easy Sewing with Tyke. My name is Tayo. So what I have for you on the channel today is the step-by-step process of making this beautiful two-layer or two-step 720-degree peplum blouse with horsehair braid, also known as crinoline line. So if this is something you're interested in, then I suggest that you stay and watch till the end. You would gain a lot of value, trust me. To all of my returning subscribers and even first time viewers, you're welcome. Shout out to you all. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please kindly hit that subscribe button, like this video as you would gain value, put on the post notification in order not to miss out on anything from this channel. Share. You don't want to enjoy all of this goodness alone. And I also love to know what part of the tutorial you like the most. Okay, now let's get started. Before we start drafting this flare, we need to do some quick calculation. Now let's get right into it. So the waist circumference that we're working with today is 31. But I'll be adding 3 inches to it. Now this 3 inches is for the zipper allowance and for the stitching allowance, because this flare is going to go all the way into the zipper allowance. As you can see, it was attached to the upper bodice to make a top. If I am to use only the exact waist circumference, which is 31, it means the flare would not go round the waist into the zipper allowance, which is why you need to add this 3 inches for the zipper allowance and for the stitching allowance. Now the waist circumference we are going to work with is 34 inches. In simple terms, 720 degree means 2 of a 360-degree flare. You know, we refer to as 360-degree flare as a full circle. So you can also refer to a 720-degree flare as a double full circle. So that is what it means in simple terms. So the first step now is to divide the waist into 2. You need to divide the waist into 2. So 34 divided by 2, we have 17. Now we need to find the radius of a 360-degree flare for 17 inches. So to find that, all I have to do is to divide the 17 by 6.28. Now this 6.28 is a constant, okay? 6.28, and I'm going to have 2.7. I'm going to have 2.7. So the radius for a 720-degree flare of a waist 34 is 2.7. It is 2 of 2.7. What it means that we'll be cutting 2 flare that has a radius of 2.7. Now that we have sorted out the radius, we need the length of the flare too. We need these 2 measurements. So the length of the flare would be the top length, that is the full length of the top. You want to subtract the half length from the full length of the top, and the top length is 24, the half length is 16. So the length of this flare is 8 inches. The length of the flare is 8 inches. So we are going to proceed to drafting now using these 2 measurements. For the purpose of the tutorial, I'll be drafting it out on my paper so that you can see it clearly, but you can draft this directly on your fabric too. So I'm going to assume this is my fabric. I've gone ahead to fold it into 4. As you can see, I've folded it into 4. So make sure that that's center there is unfold, the upper part is unfold like that too, and the remaining 2 side is opened. So where you are going to start from is that place that is unfold. So I folded this into a square of 12 inches, and I arrived at this by adding the length and the radius. So 8 plus 2.7 is 10.7, approximately 11 inches. And especially if you are drafting directly on your fabric, you are going to need 1 inch allowance. So I still folded mine into 12, even though I'm not adding the allowance on this pattern paper till I'm transferring to the fabric. But for the purpose of those that will be drafting directly on their fabric, that's why I folded it into 12. So you can see the reason why I folded this into a square of 12. Now from that corner that way, you can see where my tape measure is starting from. You want to go ahead to start measuring out the radius, which is 2.7. So I'm going to go ahead and measure it all round all the way at that corner like so. You want to make sure that you measure this properly. Once I'm done measuring it, I'm going to join the dotted lines together. Also, do not approximate. Whatever radius you arrive at, that is what you should measure out. If not, you are going to have excess, and unless you decide to pleat the excess on the waistline, do not approximate. Okay, now that we've gotten the radius, the next thing to do is to put down the length. So starting from where the 2.7 stop, I'm going to go ahead and measure the length of the flare all the way, the 8 inches. Just repeat the same process that I used to draft out the radius. Now I'm going to connect all the dotted lines together. Here is the length of the flare. Now, as you can see from the final result, it is a 2-layer 720-degree peplum. Okay, so in order to save time and cost, I'm going to draft out the second layer here directly on this pattern too, because they have the same flare. They have the same radius, rather it's only the length that differs. So the second layer is 3 inches shorter than the first layer. That is, the length of that would be 5 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and measure out 5 inches from the radius. So once I'm done cutting out the first layer, I would come back and use the same pattern to cut out the second layer. Just follow through with what I'm doing. Okay, so the first layer or the upper layer is marked with the word marker, and the second layer or the lower layer is marked with this blue marker. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the radius like so. Then I would cut off the length of the second layer, since that is what I'm cutting out first. Afterwards, we would transfer this to the fabric. So I'll be cutting out 2 of these. Remember that this is just a full circle of half of the waistline, which is half of waist 31 plus the zipper allowance and the stitching allowance. So I need 2 of this. Okay. So following the same process, I'm going to fold my fabric into 4, and I have 2 of that because I'm cutting 2 of it, remember. So I'm just going to place it on it like this. Make sure that the side that is on fold on the pattern paper matches up with the side that is on fold on the fabric. So I'm just going to add my 1/2 inch joining allowance at the lower part and at the upper part. So this is it. Now I'll go ahead and open this up and divide it into 2. I'm going to slash it at one end on each circle, so that I can join it together later. This is what one part of the circle looks like after it has been opened. You can see that it's giving multiple folds already, even without being stabilized. Now, taking the same pattern paper, I'm going to trim it off so that I can use this to cut out the first layer. So just repeating the same process, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the first layer like so. I'm going to have to cut out the lining, and I've stabilized the first layer, but I'm going to take you through the process using the second layer. Okay, I'm going to take you through the process using the second layer. You can see how neat it is. I've added the lining. You can see how curvy the folds are, and it's already looking so nice. But I'll take you through the exact same process using the first layer. I'm gonna have to cut out the lining. It is exactly the same, and I've interfaced it as you can see. So I'm going to join the 2 flare together like that at one side. The other side will be open. That's the side where the zipper would pass through. You're going to see this later in the tutorial, and I'll do the same thing for the lining. I'm still going to show you all of this on the sewing machine, but I just want to explain before we get there. I've interfaced the lining, as you can see, and as I mentioned earlier, having your fabric this way, right side facing up, and your lining on it this way, the wrong side facing up. That is, both the right side of the fabric and the right side of the lining would match up like so. Then you want to go ahead and add your crinoline. Okay, you want to go ahead and add your crinoline, or it's also called horsehair. Afterwards, you go ahead and take in your M gum. you want to add it also at the edge that way. So you want to have these 4 items arranged like so, then you go ahead and sew it all the way at the lower part. Now let's move to the sewing machine so you can see how I do all of this properly. So like I explained earlier, I'll go ahead and join the two lining together, and I'll repeat the same process for the fabric. Before you start attaching the crinoline and other things, you want to make sure that you cover the rough edges of the crinoline with your fabric this way. So I prefer using this method. When we get to the end, I will show you how I will cover the other end with the fabric. But for now, let's go ahead to attach the lining, crinoline, and the M gum to the fabric. So like I explained earlier, you just want to stack them on each other like so, and just sew it using 1/2 inch all the way to the end. So you want to make sure that where you joined on the lining and where you joined on the fabric, they actually match up together. This is very important. This will ensure that the lining lays properly on the fabric. Okay, you can see that I hold mine down using pins, and I've actually been removing pins as I sew along all the way. So you want to make sure that where you join the lining and where you join the fabric, they actually match up together. So now we are at the other end. You just want to go ahead and cut out a small piece of fabric this way, place it on the crinoline and sew it all the way using 1/4 inch thereabout. You can go ahead and trim off the excesses and just double fold your fabric on it this way, and voila, you've been able to cover up the rough edges and it's not going to poke out on your fabric or on your lining. Now the next thing would be to top stitch. So you want to make sure that all the allowance, everything that you sewn in, it actually faces the lining. You can see how I'm pushing everything towards the lining. Yes, you want to make sure to do this. Then you want to sew directly on the lining. That is you top stitching it. All this is just to ensure that everything lay down flat and you achieve a beautiful result at the end of the day. So I'm going to top stitch it all the way to the other side. Now that we are done top stitching, the next thing to do now is to give this a good press. Note that I said press, not iron. You want to make sure that you give it a good press, that all the crinoline lays flat and you achieve something like this. When you are done ironing, you want to have something as neat as this. And this is what I have after ironing. So you can see how beautiful it looks already. You can see that there's a notable difference from what we have earlier, and this is so nice. I've given it a good press. So this is what I have. The next thing that I'll be doing now is to place the second layer on top of this. That is, place the shorter layer on top of this longer one like so. Again, make sure that the midpoint of the shorter layer matches up with the midpoint of the longer layer, and I'm just going to sew it all the way at the waistline for easy fixing, so that it will be easy when I'm fixing it to the upper bodice. So now this is the upper bodice. I've already coupled it together. The purpose of this tutorial is not focusing on this upper bodice, but on the flare. But I just want to show you how I'm going to attach it, hence the reason why you are seeing this. So I've opened up the zipper area, so I've started attaching the flare to the body, starting from the center. Okay, starting from the center, and you can see that I do not even have any excesses. I did not have any excesses after the zipper allowance. I did not have to pleat anything. It was just a perfect fit. I attached it using 1/2 inch, and voila, this is what we have. I've successfully attached the double layer 720-degree peplum flare onto the lower part of this bodice. So the top is almost ready. I'll go ahead and fix my zipper off camera, and I'll attach my desired sleeve as well. And that will be all for today. Now, did you gain value? Did you learn something new? Did you enjoy the tutorial? If the answer to all of this is yes, then kindly let me know in the comment below. Hit the like button, also share. Okay, you don't want to enjoy all of this alone, and subscribe if you are yet to. You can also follow me on other social media platforms. It's Easy Sewing with Tyke. Till I see you in my next tutorial. Bye.